everyone, and welcome back to Movie of the Week. And the movie of this week was Furious 7 from 2015, so you haven't watched it, watch it now. If you're new to Movie of the Week, as I do, is I talk about a movie here and you guys comment your thoughts. And in 2024, we're doing franchises and reboots. So we're doing the Furious franchise. I only picked 2 movies. So the last video was Too Fast and Furious. So watch that movie and watch that video if you haven't done that yet. And then watch Furious 7 and watch this video. And we're not going to do another Fast and Furious movie. I kind of just felt like I couldn't do all of them. Anyway, so I picked this movie, and I don't think when I picked it did I realize this is like Paul Walker's, last movie. And actually, good pat on my back for picking this as the second movie. I talked a lot about my last video how like they were, I picked the second movie and not the first movie, but they were trying to like figure out like the first few movies of Fast and Furious, they were like, didn't really know what they were doing. They only brought one character from the first movie, second movie. The third movie was totally different. Like, weren't really exactly sure what they're doing. And then in the fourth movie, they kind of brought back all these characters that we love. And so it's like a family, and so it's like showing them together. And then like every movie, they pick up someone new. So that's kind of like where we've gone. And so this movie, they pick up Ramsey, which then we like see her in future movies. And so it's kind of that give and take, I guess. I mean, obviously, like I forgot a lot of things. Like I was like, oh, they have a kid. But yeah, so those who don't know, while they were shooting this movie, Paul Walker died, and it's actually kind of crazy. He did die in a car crash, which is like, the movies are about driving cars. He wasn't the one driving, which I didn't know about when I was like looking this up. But yeah, I think it was something where most of the movie they already had filmed, but they were wondering like, should we just stop this movie? Should we cancel this movie? And so I actually did some research about all this. And so it was something where they actually brought in Paul's brother and like did some CGI on his face for just like the scenes that he wasn't there. And I think they did a good job with CGI, but I could like literally tell every scene just because like it's a little bit off. And it's still, that was like, 2015, so like the technology isn't even as good as it is now with all that stuff. So like I could tell, but it was, yeah. So I guess the scenes that he was CGI, I mean, the biggest is like the ending scene when they go onto separate directions. And then like some of the scenes where him and Jordana and like their family in that element. I mean, he was like a big part of this movie. Like Paul was a big part of this movie. So it's, I guess, good that they filmed most of it because it would have been a lot of CGI. Like he had a big role, and so I kind of, when I was like, oh wow, this is that movie, like I know this is the movie, that he had a smaller role. I mean, it was kind of interesting that they were already kind of going that direction where he's like this dad and he's taking care of his family. And so but I'm sure that like if Paul didn't pass away, he would have been in future movies. And I think we actually do see Jordana in future movies. She's just like a little part. It's also kind of crazy, this whole like father thing, because then, which I just don't get it in the Furious franchise, that Vin Diesel then has this kid with this, the Chris Hemsworth's wife, who's in a few scenes in this movie, which I kind of forgot about. It was just like random, I think, right? Like that's who the father or the mother of the kid, I don't know. I'm like forgetting these movies because I obviously didn't remember that Paul had a kid in these movies. But yeah, the fact that he had a kid just like was like it just was so random. But then his kid was a big part of the latest Furious movie anyway. So comparing this movie to that movie, also The Rock is in this, but he didn't have that big of a part. Like he literally wasn't in that much of that movie. And there's also like Rock was in a lot of Furious movies, but he hasn't been in the last couple because I think there's like, he's like beef with Vin Diesel. And so he's like, I'm not coming back. And Vin Diesel's like, come back for the last movie. He's like, no. And so it's also kind of interesting because like Vin Diesel is like, I would say the mainest character in this movie. And so it's kind of like something that kind of transformed. I'm not exactly sure what movie, maybe 4 or maybe 5, but yeah. And it's like this whole thing about like family, and like he has like a team, he works with these people, and this is like what they do. The whole Michelle Rodriguez character, when they thought she died but then her memory was just gone, like that's also a crazy plot. Like what? So then like that was happening kind of this movie too, where she's like, I'm starting to remember things. I don't know. Also, like I felt like in the second movie, like everything they did was driving was like, you know, intense and stuff. But in the end, like it's all doable. The things that they do in these movies with cars, like this movie and some of the other Furious movies, are like out of the box. Like don't try this at home because these cars can't do these things. These things are so unrealistic. Like there's no way. But you know, dramatize. I'm like forgetting words, guys. It's extra dramatic. I can't speak. English is my first language, but I can't speak. Make it more dramatic. They make it seem like it's doable. Obviously, so it's not just like car action, I guess, in this one, but there's actually like physical fighting that we didn't see. And so Paul actually has like a lot of scenes. I feel like he's the number one who's like having a lot of physical fight scenes. So it's like they're having this enemy and they're trying to get this thing. Then they also have this other guy who's trying to kill him, Jason States something name. But then he like becomes a part of these movies and he like becomes on their team, which is kind of crazy. This movie, they're like trying to kill each other, but then he like ends up being on their team. And it's also the whole thing with him and Hobbs at the end, which is The Rock's character. Like then there's the Hobbs and Shaw movie. It's just like, also Helen Mirren, doesn't she play his mom in these series? I don't know. But yeah, so there's more fighting in this and like there's obviously more money. Like I don't know where they were in the Middle East, but they were somewhere in the Middle East. It's all fancy. I mean, the whole like scene where he's like jumping from building to building is crazy. So it's just so much more. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like Fast and Furious even more is like having like more crazy things with cars, but maybe that we just don't see that in this movie. And like also like it's such a family, like people are already dying. Like Han died because he comes back in the franchise. No one's really dead. So yeah, Gal Gadot's character too, like she comes back at some point too, but she's supposed to be dead. I don't know. I was talking a little bit about the aesthetic in the second movie, and so this movie also still has a little bit of aesthetic, but it's a little bit different. 100%. I feel like the second movie really shows the aesthetic the most, I guess, of this atmosphere because it's very different in this movie. Not too different. I mean, just somewhat different. And like, as I said in the last movie, like there's always at least one street race in the movie, and this one had one at the beginning with Michelle Rodriguez's character. So some of the things that this franchise does is a little bit crazy, kind of unrealistic, and like that makes me mad. But like, what action movie is realistic? And it's something where, you know, it's this thing about family and like, I keep saying family, but like, that's what Fast and the Furious is. I don't know what else to say. I'm gonna end it here, but you know, hopefully if you are new to this franchise, this makes you want to watch the other movies to understand what's happening, because it kind of makes me want to watch other movies because I was like, I forgot so many things that happened at the beginning of this movie. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. So comment below your thoughts about Too Fast to Furious, Furious 7, and all the Fast and Furious movies. And then the movie we're going to do next, and the franchise we're going to do next, is very different because we're going to do the High School Musical franchise. You know, gotta bring in kids movies ever so often here. So we're going to start with, obviously, High School Musical 1 from 2006. So, you know, comment below about Fast and Furious, everything, whatever, and then watch High School Musical for next week. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and bye.